All right, welcome to the Fit Pro Show team. It feels like forever since we had our last talk, but that's what we get for only getting to do this once a month. So always looking forward to the beginning of every month so we can collab and get a little bit of info out there and join my favorite podcast. So we're gonna kind of start things off today with just introducing our next upcoming program because we know everyone just wrapped up TechMan Try. Hopefully that went well and you've submitted your results and you're getting excited to get your swag soon. So, but whether you did really great at the challenge, the TechMan Try challenge, or maybe you struggled and fell off, this next program, Choose Your Change, is a great way to keep the momentum going or to pick the momentum back up and create some healthy habit changes that you always wanted to work on, and you can have the support of us to do so. So Jane, want to kind of give us an overview of what it's all about?
Yes, I would love to. So like Hannah said, our next program is called Choose Your Change, and it's a fast turnaround. It launches this coming Monday, October 10th. And like she also said, it's perfect to kind of jumpstart something that you've been wanting to have for a goal or create a habit around, or it's great to kind of keep that momentum going. So during this 4-week program, our goal is to help you create a new habit. And so we're really also wanting you, if you would like, to go beyond a physical goal. It can be around anything from nutrition to mental health to financial well-being, any type of social aspect that you want to focus on. And we're going to give you so many tools and support over the 4 weeks to help you really get this new habit created and started and have it under your belt so that you can continue on beyond the 4 weeks. So it's not necessarily a goal that you would achieve in 4 weeks, which I think is great. This 4 weeks is kind of your launching pad toward that new habit that you want to establish. So please, please, please scan that QR code, or I'll put the registration link in the chat box. It's going to be really fun. All of us program managers are going to have our goals that we're going to work toward and really focusing on that habit that will lead us to the behavior change that we're looking for.
Great. Thank you for that info, Jane. I know we're going to have some webinars and a Teams page and just a way to kind of stay accountable and in it with your fellow colleagues. So definitely check out this program. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we are too.
Yeah, so just good information and guidance along the way. That's what we're trying to do. We try to make sure that we are always keeping everybody motivated, but that's something that we're not always going to have and kind of fleeting. So when you have that skill set and you know how to set smart goals and you know how to kind of stay on track, not necessarily linearly, right, towards those goals, but knowing how to kind of pivot and how to go through changes in your life and different seasons, and knowing that it's okay to not have that continued progress. Like we talk about on the fitness side of things too, like those foundational techniques that we talk about here on the Fit Pro Show and that I talk about with clients all the time. We need those foundational principles of how we move and you know, cardio strength and cardio strength, mobility, all those things. But then when you switch that mindset and you make it maybe financial for somebody, or maybe social, or just a mindset overall, mental health, those types of things. That's one of my favorite parts of this program, because a lot of people just got finished with TechMan Try, which we're going to talk about a little bit on the show today. And I know it's hard when you're emphasizing something and maybe stepping outside of your comfort zone, and it's okay to give yourself some grace and kind of move on to some other goals that you might have outside of just fitness related too. So I love the versatility here with this one.
Yeah, I know we always kind of think about just like fitness and nutrition, but there are so many other realms of wellness that you can dive into that maybe you struggle with, and that will help actually improve how your fitness and nutrition is going as well. I also think a lot of times we can get into that rut where you're like, okay, I'm just going to do this. Like Jane said, this isn't a program of just 4 weeks, but a lot of times we go into that, okay, this next month I'm doing this. And like, instead of actually practicing those practices and habits to do for the rest of your life and kind of get into that. We see that all the time, especially with the holidays kind of coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Definitely with the holidays coming out, right? We talked about this the other day. Sticking to healthy habits around the holiday season when all the goodies are everywhere and every commercial everywhere you turn is trying to sell you something or have you eat something that looks amazing. And I think there's a time and a place for all of that stuff. Buying yourself a little something or having a sweet treat or whatever the heck it may be, right? But knowing that we're most of the time trying to stick to these principles is something that we're just trying to always remind people of.
Yeah, we're coming up on, it's October, November, December. So we've got Halloween and then Thanksgiving and then Christmas and New Year's. And I know a lot of people just use TechMan Try as a way to get some momentum and things going. But I've already heard some people that have finished the program and then kind of fallen off because they're like, I got it done. And then life starts to get busy. And what happens with the holidays, I think it happens a lot more closer to in Thanksgiving time.
Mhm.
But it sometimes can happen as you start to fall off now, and then that leads to that completely falling off, and then everybody wanting to start fresh in January, when we need to figure out what is realistic so that you can maintain these healthy habits, because our life is not just like short term here and there. It's an overall big circle. So you want to figure out a way in these holidays and months coming up when it's a lot easier to let yourself lose your fitness or nutrition motivation, to find a way to maintain it while still enjoying this time of the year, because it is a really enjoyable time of the year. But the more consistent you are, that's how you'll actually hit those goals in the long run.
Yeah, and I'm interested in hearing some of your techniques on the nutrition and fitness side of things. I can start a little bit. You know, on the fitness side of things, that's something that's never not part of my life. Like it's always a part of my life.
Same.
On the fitness side of things, it's just like, where's that volume dial at this point, this month, or even this year or this semester or whatever it is? It's like, okay, am I really motivated and feeling really good and trying to make a lot of progress on weight training? Or am I coming off a TechMan Try and I'm a little low energy level and all those snack foods are looking really good for me right now? You know, that's okay, because that's just kind of part of your journey. But you need to make sure that you're staying active somehow. And there can be other ways. Here in Texas, it's finally cooling down a little bit, so maybe getting outside a little bit more. I know I certainly have been outside a little bit more with the dogs and stuff like that, getting some physical activity. I've been doing a little bit more yoga and those types of things. So those things are always there for you. Finding something that it makes your body feel good, you feel alive, and you get some enjoyment out of it. And then maybe that intensity can, you know, or that energy that you have that you can't necessarily channel into that high intensity fitness realm, maybe that goes into some of these those choose your change goals. That's something that was maybe lagging off a little bit more. And so maybe fall is the perfect time for you. It's like, okay, I want to indulge on some of the nutritional things a little bit, but I need to find that balance of still getting some type of activity and things like that. On the nutritional side of that, I always maintain that balance. I try to eat well, like really well, Monday through Friday, pretty much always. And then especially this time of the year, I'm gonna have some good food on the weekends. It's just how it is, you know, and some social activities and those types of things. And it works for me. You just can't kind of go off the rails on that type of stuff.
Yeah, I like what you said about how the physical activity is always there. It's like a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And I'm the exact same. There's always, like, I always want to get movement in the day, like no matter what kind of type it is. It's sometimes I'm really into the strength training, sometimes I'm just going on walks, but yoga, like you said. But there's always movement that I need to get in each day, because it will never be bad for you to move. It's never bad, unless maybe you had a giant surgery and you need to rest and lay and let things recover. But
right, or super sick or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's always good to move. And that always, I got my cancer certified cancer exercise certification back in college, and that blew my mind, because when cancer patients are going through their treatment, it's always so common that like obviously their energy levels are so low, they're so tired, and the last thing they want to do is exercise, when all the studies were showing how much better working and exercise into their routine was actually improving their energy levels when they were going through these treatments. And so it was just a good reminder that exercise is and movement is always good. So that's also, I just think everyone should have it into their life where it's just, that's always part of your day. You've always got to find a time to get up and move. It could literally just be a walk. And that's where you'll hit your goals over time, is with that consistency, where like you do have to make it to the gym, you do have to get up those runs in and stuff, so that it becomes secondhand nature. And it's not that you're having to force yourself doing it. It's something that is just part of your day. And I think that's where a lot of people, it takes them a while to get into that, because me and David have to remind ourselves we're a little bit crazy on the spectrum of exercise and health in that way compared to a lot of average Joes. But that's because we studied this and we love it, and there's a reason why we're in this profession. But once you can find a way to make it so it's just non-negotiable, it's every single day, get some movement in, get the body moving, that's where you'll see those results over long term. And the same goes with nutrition, like you were saying, like always like not just going for where you start those New Year's resolutions and you're going to eat super clean this whole week, and then you fall off the wagon and then you let it go, and then it's been 3 months and you've gained 20 pounds and you're like, wow, I let myself go. And then kind of that vicious cycle we see happen a lot. Make it so that it's always normal to eat healthy. I think it should always be normal to feel your body good. And then when you want to dive into those extra goodies and fun food, you totally can, and it's not going to set you off track because you're mostly eating healthy most of the time, you know.
Yeah, and you talking about all that stuff, I couldn't agree more. But normalizing all of this, normalizing that everybody's different. Me and you are different because we're kind of obsessed with fitness and we know the science and all that stuff behind it, but we still struggle with these things, given our past like athletic careers and that we're in. So for somebody that's not in that, I know that it can be difficult, right? Like I empathize with that. And so, and the same thing goes on the nutritional side of things too. Everybody was raised differently. Everybody has different, knowledge levels as far as, nutrition goes. And that's where a lot of fad diets and people trying crazy overzealous things kind of comes into it. But when you can try to find that balance somewhere, that's going to keep away that weight regain. We've talked about this a little bit on the show before, but in this country, we really don't have a weight loss epidemic, or people lose millions of pounds like every year in this country. We just regain that weight and then more. And when you talk about that vicious cycle, if you're on this restrictive, let's say somebody's on a very restrictive diet going into these last 3 months of the year, and they're pretty happy about where they're at, but now they really want to eat all the good food because they're not going to be in the swimsuit or bikini just as quite as much, and it just this time of year brings those gatherings a little bit more. That's the perfect time where people their weight starts trending up a little bit, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing if you can find maintenance. That's what we want, but when you do regain that weight and it comes through higher calories, but you were on this restrictive diet where your metabolism got lower, you're in this vicious cycle where now your metabolism's a little bit lower and your body fat's a little bit higher, and it makes it really hard to get back on that wagon and make the progress. So every year you do that, or somebody does that, it happens to people all the time, it makes it that much harder to lose the weight, and it makes the process that much harder. So we're just trying to get up in front of it before it's Thanksgiving, before it's Christmas, before the Halloween candy comes out, or whatever you kind of indulge in a little bit, and talk about it a little bit, and just give some techniques on how to approach it.
So what would you kind of say to someone if they're already down that path and they're having to kind of get back up into the swing of things? Maybe they have gained weight, their metabolism has slowed down. What advice would you give them?
I would say start with, especially if you're not getting any physical activity, like you said, start with something that can be a 10-minute Keep Fit class. That can be getting some more, walking in. Now it's a little bit cooler. Whatever you can find, maybe you're doing yoga, or you're doing some type of stretching or something. I'm about to go play basketball in a little bit with some of the guys out here. Foster that community too, people that are like-minded, that like similar things. And even if that seems daunting to you, start with breath work. Start with something, because I think a lot of times we're running all these miles up here in the brain. There's all these ideas and all these thoughts just going a million miles an hour. And then it's hard to kind of focus all of that energy and just calm down and focus on your breath. And then when you can get kind of connected with that, it slows down how you're thinking about things. And when you're connected with your breath, you can use that during your cardio or during your strength training, all that stuff. So if you can kind of find that center and find that base, and then just get moving a little bit, that's where you go. So if you're already doing some of that stuff, there's just a progressive overload. You can talk to any of our fitness center program managers, and we can get you kind of on a path of getting a little bit more physical activity, or more intense, or more density. I was talking to my client this morning, and we didn't take a break for the first time between supersets, right? And we're still building that level of fitness right there. So we did a superset. We usually take about a minute in between and then go straight into it. We didn't take that break in between. I barely let him catch his breath, and we went into the next one, and it completely fried him. But I had to say, this is a way of overloading, even though it's not more volume, it's not more work, it's more density in a shorter amount of time. So your heart's still working more, and you're still feeling those muscles in a different kind of way. So it's not even necessarily about doing more overall. It's about knowing these techniques to make it a little bit harder, burn more calories. I know in this, we've talked about low intensity cardio versus high intensity cardio, and those hit intervals when you're really getting after it, even if it's just 10 minutes, but you get into more of that creatine glycolytic energy system, the more 10 second spurts, or up to like 30 seconds of work, your EPOC goes up, your excess post oxygen consumption, like it goes through the roof. And for up to 24, 36 hours, sometimes you're burning more calories outside of the gym. And when you explain something like that to somebody who doesn't know that, they're like, wow, I don't have this huge time commitment, and I can work hard with you for a little while, and it's given me all of these benefits. So it's just whatever is going to show value and show that change, stick with that.
Yeah, and utilize the resources you have to get those type of results and programs. So we were just talking today, I teach a strength circuit / boot camp type class on site every Monday and Wednesday. And today was probably the hardest workout we've done. And that was intentional. I kind of had finished like the programming, and I knew that this Wednesday was going to be tough. And I kind of warned them. They showed up ready to go. And so many people after it came up and said the difference they've seen in the 3 months of coming twice a week, or even if they started halfway, is insane. And they just have to show up during their work day. Let me do all the work we'll put it together for them. Then they have to work hard. But the difference that they've seen, and that's just by consistency and making it happen. Because we know that the new health and fitness nutrition world there's so much data always being thrown at us, whether it's ads, our influencers, what our friends are talking about, what your parents have said, what you hear over here in the gym. You're always hearing new things that are better, and it's hard to even like sometimes I'm like, wait, I'm getting confused. I need to look at
gotta get informed
some
myself.
research.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure, because people are gonna ask us. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, so it's constantly changing. And so if you kind of tap into the resources that such as us that know kind of, obviously we don't know everything, but we know probably a little bit more than the average Joe to get you going there. That's a good resource. But don't let things get overcomplicated in your brain so that it prevents you from making those strides forward. Because I think that's what a lot of people get stuck at, is that there's so much, I don't know what to do. So then nothing happens at all. So kind of starting with that bare minimum, like you had kind of talked about, but then utilizing resources you have to get those good workout programs and classes in so you could see the results. Fun fact, I had a guy who had started right when we started the on-site classes, and we were doing overhead presses with dumbbells, and for the first few weeks, he could probably make it through 20 seconds with 5-pound weights. And then if we did intervals longer, he'd have to drop the weights and just do body weight overarm presses. And today he did a full minute. Well, we are doing every minute on the minute, so it's an EMOM workout, but he was basically doing, I think I had us do 20 reps there, and it was he had 15-pound dumbbells in his hand, and he was just like up and down. And that's because he has just showed up, and I'm kind of putting that program together for him. And when you actually see that, that can be holding on to that motivation for you.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Because we are specialists, and there's specialists in all these different types of fields. I hire people to help me in different portions of my life, just like we're helping people in this portion of life, right? But hearing things like that just makes me happy, because I think you're right. You don't have to overcomplicate it, but you do have to know some stuff, right? And so the people that know those things, utilize them, especially if it's free and it's kind of a perk to you. Because what's most important? Well, getting enough sleep, moving, and like eating well. Those are 3 really important things. But if you only, realizing that those are important is great, but if you only know that, it doesn't really give you any action items, right? And that's where the SMART goals for our program coming up is gonna like help with whatever you're trying to improve upon. It's like, okay, not just I know I should get a certain amount of sleep. It's like, no, it's this much sleep, and this is how you can wind down throughout your day. And this is when you can cut out caffeine if you're a coffee drinker. And this is how you can kind of slowly get away from the screens all the way leading up into when you're getting into bed or in bed, and all that type of stuff. Same thing on the fitness end of things. Yeah. Getting more steps is better than just sitting on the couch all day. But when you take it to that next level, okay, what exercises should I be doing? What set and rep ranges? That's where we can come in. And like you said, he was doing body weight, shoulder presses, and now he's doing 15 pounds for a minute instead of 20 seconds body weight. That's phenomenal. Yeah.
It's crazy. And I think I also want to point out that people like David and I, we struggle even the fitness realm sometimes. Like, I used to be all over the HIIT workouts. I've been so busy that like strength training is all I can kind of get in. And I know that I want to add more of those HIIT training in so I can get those EPOC levels up. And just, I like the way I feel when I get more circuit training in that sense. And so it's even for me, I've gotten comfortable what I'm doing right now. And I'm in that mode where like, I know I need to do that and add that into my routine. I just haven't yet. And like, why haven't I yet? Like I have been making excuses. Like, I'm so busy, I'm tired by the end of the day. Like, I don't have a good space or something at that time, but there's so many ways for me to get around it. Those are just kind of excuses. So this program, Choose Your Change, that's going to definitely help me, because I need a good habit changing in that realm, because I've slipped away, and I just know how good I feel when I'm on that. So just know that lots of us go through those same things.
And you know that it's there for you, like whenever you want to hop back on that horse or whatever, and it's easy to feel guilty about things that you shouldn't feel guilty about too. Like I think different people struggle in that arena in different ways. Like, for me, it can be really dumb things, because I just did so much in this part of my life and feel really accomplished. And it's like, I didn't do this because I just didn't have the time or resources or energy to do that. But there has to be some sort of balance along there, and there's only so much time. So making sure that you're okay with it and that you're kind to yourself in that regard, knowing that you're going to chip away at these goals, is just something that you always have to come back to. I know, like, when I used to be more into like the like bodybuilding stuff, like competitive bodybuilding and things like that, there was so much body dysmorphia and people that got into it because they wanted to be like healthy and fit, and they completely lost sight of that. And there was more self-hatred when they looked better than they ever had, and all these unhealthy habits that went along with it. It almost negated all of that work
Mhm.
that they put in physically, and they kind of deteriorated mentally because they were hyper focused on this one goal. So making
Yeah.
sure that you don't only have a goal, but you pick the right one for you, right? And that's kind of what we're going to be guiding a little bit throughout the way, and choose your change. But like when somebody asks a little kid, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, do they have a goal of like being an astronaut? If they, in 5 years or 10 years, if they're not that astronaut, did they did they like not meet that goal? Yeah, technically, but that wasn't like where they were at. You know what I mean? Like, there's a time and place
Mhm.
for all of that.
Yeah, and just be graceful with yourself. I think we can all I think everybody sets really high standards for
Mhm.
themselves and goals. And a lot of times we just have to be graceful because our journey is going to be like this. It's not like that, like picture perfect, like you see in the movies and on social media and everything. Everybody has their ups and downs, and everybody does kind of struggle with the same problems, whether we know it or not. And obviously, everyone's to a different level of extent with all of them. But I've been there with the nutrition and having a hard mindset around what my body looks like and all of that. And now I've come out kind of on that other side and kind of seen the progress in a way to get to that point where you feel good with what you're doing. And I think a lot of times that just means, like you're saying, realistic goals. How can you hit that every single day, where exercise is in there, eating good is in there, but have grace with yourself when you're going to the potluck with friends, you're going to a football game. Like, I'm not going to go to an Oregon football game and not have a soft pretzel. Like, I've had a soft pretzel every single time since I was little, and it makes me so happy. Like, but I also know that, like, that is a hunk of carbs, like, and the cheese, like, oh, so good. But
Yeah.
I always know that. So I kind of know that, like, okay, I'm getting a workout in that morning. I'm gonna have a omelet with some veggies, and like just practicing that balance with it. So that when I used to eat a pretzel like that and I'd hate myself for quite a while. Now I eat that pretzel, no, this is the best thing in my life. So,
Yeah, because that's so crazy that you could do that and be enjoying it, and then hate yourself for it, right? And
mhm.
so for that, just fitting in it to where you're at now, it's like, okay, I'll have a lighter breakfast or lunch or whatever it is and get my workout in. I'm gonna have so much fun with my family and friends here and completely enjoy it. And I think realizing that your body isn't who you are, you should take care of it. We only get
Mhm.
one, it's our
Yeah.
vessel for consumption, right? But that's not who you are, just like our job isn't who we are, or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, getting hyper focused on certain areas is not the way to go. It's just kind of going with the flow with all of this, but having that structured flexibility along the way.
And I think when it comes to the holidays and you are going to these events and all these things coming up and life gets hectic, and if you're sticking to those goals mainly through the week, like you were saying, you have a great regimen on Monday through Friday and like kind of let loose on the weekends. It's a lot more enjoyable instead of when you're like kind of like let yourself go all week and then you get to the Halloween party and you're like, well, I'm just going to eat all the candy because, I've already, or
Yeah.
like not let yourself eat anything. So I think just finding balance and all about maintenance is just super key to this time of
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, maintenance. And I said that earlier. I'm glad that you said it again, because there's a phasic structure and all of this stuff. You can take it back to fitness training, since it is the Fit Pro show. It's like, there's has to be phases that potentiate other phases. Like, there has to be a stabilization phase, and then you go into more of an endurance phase, into hypertrophy, into strength, or whatever it may be. You can have that with these different things in your life too, whether it's with your body weight. Maybe you have that diet and you go on a maintenance phase, and then you give yourself some time to maybe gain some muscle, and you gain a little bit of fat along the way, because it's part of it. But being ready for that mentally, and knowing that that's going to happen, and right when you see a pound or two go up, knowing that it's part of your journey, I think is really important. And I think that it should apply to different parts of your life.
Definitely. Well, it looks like we're at time, but super good conversation. That flew by. I feel like we were just we could talk about this for so long because we're so passionate about it. But definitely register for Choose Your Change. It'll be a good program coming up, and I think it's a good way to create these healthy habits and maintain them like we were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks everybody for joining today. We'll see y'all next time.